I don't know how I'm gonna live up to that expectation. I just came to hang out. Good morning. I guess in Barcelona it's good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Rico Cruz, and I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. And I send you love and life from my heart to yours on this beautiful day. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm one of those guys who I want to thank God at the beginning of the meeting, because if you listen to Rico Cruz after the meeting, we're all going to be in the parking lot smoking and drinking, and I'm not talking about cigarettes. So tell the timer, give me a minute. I have to get out of Rico and get into the spirit. God, please take from me my false pride and my grandiosity, all my phoniness and self-importance, and help me find the courage that shows itself in gentleness, the wisdom that shows itself in simplicity, and the true power that shows itself in modesty and humility. Okay, we got Rico out the way. Good evening, friends and family. My name is Rico Cruz, grateful recovered alcoholic. Glad to be here with you one day at a time. And nice to be in Barcelona without getting on that long flight. But anytime I'm in the presence of my friend Leslie, I am always honored, anytime. So I'm glad to be here. And that doesn't make her any more than you. We all are one love, but she is kind of special. Be that as it may, I didn't come here to talk about my relationship with Leslie. And I think I came here to talk to you about that real cool drinking I was doing. I'm going to give you a little background, hopefully not too much, because that's not really important. But the significant part of my life is what happened after I met you. But just to qualify, I'm from Spanish Harlem in New York. I have 5 sisters and no brothers. And as a youngster, that was way too much estrogen for me in the house. So I was always a guy looking out the window trying to be in the street. And I was a little lost in space ever before I even thought about a drink. When I was going to kindergarten the first time, I went to get on the school bus and I didn't want to go. And my grandmother kind of waved me on. And I got on the bus and all these kids were laughing and playing and hollering, having fun. And they had in their eyes what you had in your eyes when I first met you. And that was that welcoming spirit. Welcome. And I looked at them. I looked back at my grandmother. My grandmother said, Bete Baye, Bete Baye. And I got on the bus and I looked at these kids and I gave them the look. And the look was, I don't want to play with you. I don't want to know you. Do not bother me. And I will hurt you. 5 years old. But that's from looking out the window. When you look out the window in Spanish Harlem, what you see is not what you want to be, but it's what I wanted to be. And it led into a lot of other things. And the whole time I got on that bus, I looked out the window. I got into this classroom, I looked out the window. We got back on the bus, I looked out the window. Because all I wanted to do was be in my grandmother's presence, because she was my safety net. And I tell you that story because I have been looking out of the window from that time until I met you. No matter how fine my clothes were, no matter how much I had the best tennis sneakers in the world, no matter how good I was all city, all state basketball player, none of that. I was always looking out the window. And the reason I was looking out the window, because I never wanted to be here. I always wanted to be there. I don't know where there is. I still didn't find out what there is, but I always wanted to be not here. And I remember as a youngster being in Yankee Stadium, maybe 55, 65,000 people, hot dogs, hamburgers, popcorn, everybody screaming and having a good time. And I felt all alone. And when you feel all alone and you have 55,000 people around you, there's probably something wrong. I didn't know that then, but I know that now. So like I said, I was lost in space way before I met you. I grew up with these girls. All I wanted to do was hang out in the street because I grew up around 6 women. And like I said, that was way, way too much estrogen for me to be around. And when you poor, I come from an extremely poor Puerto Rican family. And when you're that poor and it's snowing or inclement weather outside and you can't go outside, all you want to do is look out the window. And when you look out the window in Spanish Harlem, all you see is hoes, pimps, junkies, drunks. That's all you see. Jackers. I mean, that's not much to look up to. When they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I wanted to be one of those guys downstairs with the pretty girls, with the big cars, and all the jewelry. But I didn't know what came with that. And I grew up in a very loving, kind, caring, passionate family. We just didn't have things and stuff. We couldn't afford it. Like I told you, we were very, extremely poor. We couldn't, the kind of poor where you hope you're going to have something to eat that evening because you don't know. It's the guesswork. And I go up with these girls, and my job was to protect my sisters. It wasn't a job that you volunteered for, it was one you were given. And I grow up and I'm fast forward, I get into school and I'm a good athlete. And what happens is I hide behind my athleticism. That's not really who I am because the truth is I am afraid of everything that even moves. But in the external world, you would never know that because I could fight, I could run, I could play ball, and it looked like I was somebody. They say around here, I don't know about around here, but where I come from, it is better to be hated for who you are than it is to be loved for who you are not. And I've spent my entire life until I met you being loved for who I was not. Because the things I was doing and where I was going and what I was doing was not who I am, but it's what I did. And it looked like. And I started drinking and winking and having a little fun. And it was just a social thing for me. I didn't like the way it tastes. I loved the way it felt. But I did it anyway because I wanted to belong. But the reason it wasn't me is because I'm really at heart, I'm a loner. I like being with me. And it's not narcissistic. I just enjoy my company because I trust me. And the things I was doing, I didn't want nobody to be able to tell on me. So if I was by myself, there was nobody to tell. And I grew up in that kind of life. And I grow up and I get in junior high school and I get in high school and I'm fairly good and I get the scholarship to a school, but they don't give me the full scholarship because I needed money for books. They gave me room, board, and tuition, but they didn't give me books. We couldn't even afford the books. And I was going to be the first one in my family to graduate from college. And my mother, whom I loved dearly, she was heartbroken. Heartbroken. I said, "Mom, don't worry. I'm going to get a job. They promised to hold a scholarship for a year. I'm going to save my money and I'm going to do it. Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to make you proud of me." So I start getting into the world of work. I'm working in New York, downtown on 51st, between Lexington and Madison. A lot of corporate America, a lot of advertising agencies, a lot of everything down there. So I want to be a wannabe. So in New York, when you go for a job interview, you dress like this. I'd never seen anybody go with jeans to an interview in my life till I came to California to visit one time. And because everything we do, we suited and booted. It's all about the outside. And I grew up like that. It was a way of life. My sisters, when they went for job interviews, they were dressed to the nines, gloves, hats, scarf. I mean, they never went in pants. Pants are, yuck, back then. But this is me growing up, not now. And I grew up like that. So I meet this guy. I go to lunch the same place every day. I meet this guy. His name is Neville. And he says to me, "Hey, man, what's your name? I see you here every day and you're always by yourself." I said, "I like being me." He said, "Have you ever tried a vodka martini? Very dry." I said, "No, I don't drink. I'm an athlete." And this was in the days where they didn't even test. I said, "No, I'm an athlete. I don't drink." He said, "You don't have to worry about it." And there's no newcomers here, so I don't have to tell you. What he's about to tell me is a lie. He told me, "Your boss won't smell it. Don't worry about it. It's just smooth." I said, "Nah, I don't do that." So he keeps talking. So he gets me to try this extra dry martini. He tells the guy how to make it, what to do, what to put in it. And I try it. It tastes disgusting, but I try it. I'm a professional people pleaser. I try it. And I have, okay, let me have another one. And I have another one. And I start having these out of body experiences. I'm like, wow. So I said, well, let me check myself before I go back to work. I go in the men's room, tidy up, look up, see if I'm okay. And I look in the mirror and looking back at me, square in the eye looking back at me, is this 6'4", blonde hair, blue eye, fighter jet pilot, 2% body fat in the mirror looking at me. I said, so what the? I didn't know about illusions and delusions. I hadn't met you yet. So I go back to this restaurant where we're supposed to be eating, but we're drinking. And I said, I better try another one of those. And I tried another one, and I go back in the men's room, and I look in the mirror, and that blonde haired, blue eyed fighter jet pilot is still there. I said, oh, now I know how to look like that. So before I get out the mirror, I take my hair and I fling it back. I don't have hair in the head because I'm playing basketball wearing the ball head. And I'm flinging it back, and the blonde hair goes flying back on me. I said, this ain't too bad. So that's how my drinking career started. And from there, I associated with looking debonair, with drinking and dancing. And we go to this club we had downtown called the Palladium. And it's where all the salseros go. That's what we call them. And we danced there. Now, dancing for us is salsa. You guys call it salsa. We just call it dancing because that's what we do all our lives. And I taught all my sisters how to dance. I'm pretty good on the floor. So I go up there and there's a balcony up there where you can look down and see all the dancers. And all the fine women, I mean fine as China wine, then personal ladies, but I'm talking about make your heart jump out your chest fine. Dressed to the nines, and they go up there and they look down and see who can dance. And once they identify who can dance, they ask you. I said, Papi, vámonos, vamos a bailar. Seguro. And we start dancing. I can dance my ass off, excuse my French, but in the salsa. So I'm having fun. I hadn't met you yet. I don't know about blackouts and progressive disease. I don't know about none of that. So I'm dancing, and I see two ladies across the floor. I see Jennifer Lopez, Holly Berry. Hey, this ain't bad. I think I'll take them both home. And make a long story short, I wake up in the morning and I'm sitting next to, I said, who are you? She says, hola, papi. And I look, and this is something you would run from. Now, I didn't know about blackouts. I thought I was with J-Lo or somebody else. Now, if it happened one time, I wouldn't really tell you about it. But it became a pattern, me being in blackouts. But I didn't know that until I met you. And lucky enough, I never went home with a man. But it could have been possible. But it was probably the somebody you just wouldn't want to be around, and you go home with them thinking you're going to do something with somebody. It was just a crazy life. And that went on and on and on and on. And when I got to be 19, I vowed I'd never be married because I always thought if I get my heartbreak once, better to have something in the wings. So I was a two-woman guy. And I had a son at 19 out of wedlock. I said, oh, this is going to ruin my life. And this lady, she wanted to get married. I said, no. She brought her grandparents over to my parents' house and they were going to try to shotgun me. I said, I'm not getting married. You can shoot me, kill me, do whatever you want. I'm not getting married. They said, what you going to do about this baby? It wasn't born yet. I said, I have no idea, but I'll think of something. Long story short, we go forward. I tell the lady, I said, do me a favor. Give me 2 years. And in between those 2 years, I give you whatever you need, and then I'll take her. She says, okay. And she was an airline stewardess. So she was flying all over the place, and her mother lived in California. And we were in New York, and her mother kind of took care of her while she flew all over the world. So I didn't know 2 years goes by that quick. So it goes by. By this time, I've opened up a little import-export business. And because of my respect for Alcoholics Anonymous, I won't give you any details of the import-export business, but I can tell you it wasn't legal. And I was making money at the time, hand over fist, because we had etiquette and that rock stuff hadn't come out yet. This was just plain powder. And things were going good in the car and the girls and the hostages. And the hostages were, when I got near, you guys told me they were girlfriends, but they were hostages. Because what I did was I say, you make sure my son has clean clothes, you make sure he eats, make sure the house clean, and I give them whatever I want because I was getting paper like that. But all this time, I'm still drinking. By this time, I've gone from a cognac, we used to call it yak. They called me the yak yak man. From yak, now I'm a pop off man. I'm throwing down vodka like I had stock in it. But I don't know. It's not having any effect for me because at the time I was in fairly good shape. I was just partying and having fun, and I thought I wasn't hurting anybody. I didn't know I was committing suicide one drink at a time on an installment plan. I didn't find that out till I met you. And by then it was too late, but I'm glad I met you. So I got this kid now. I'm doing what I'm doing. I said, I got to do something different. So I moved, got a nice house, a nice area, because the first thing I looked for was schools. Got to be good schools, or I ain't going to live there. I find a place where there's some good schools. I found me a little place up in Hollywood where I can do my import-export business because I didn't want that to be around my son. I didn't want him to have a relationship with me like I had with my father, which was pretty much none. My father's, you do what he says, or next thing you know, you're in a prone position looking up. So I didn't want to have a relationship with him there. I wanted to be able to talk to him. I talked to my father, he said, go ask your mother, go ask your mother. So we didn't really have a relationship emotionally and spiritually. It was just, you just do what I say. Okay, I accept that. I keep going. So this boy starts growing up, and before you know it, I'm still the party animal. I turn around, this boy's going to junior high school. I went, what? So we go into junior high school. He starts participating in sports. Turn around again. He's in high school. Oh my God. He's in high school. He wants to play football. He comes home. He says, Dad, I want you to train me. And he knows about my athleticism. He knows what I've been through and where I've been. And I said, oh man, because I'm thinking about taking away from myself for self. I said, okay, I'll make a deal with you. I'll train you. But the trade-off is you always have to have your homework done, always have to have your room clean before we can ever even look at a football field. He says, okay. So the other part is you have to become an avid reader. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to comprehend, and you have to be able to do math, all of it. If you do that, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Because if you know those things, you can learn anything that you have interest in. Those are the basics. At least they were at that time. Now all you need is a cell phone. So he does that. He gets really good. And the next thing I know, those 3 years gone by, I'm a working professional. I dress like this. I got a little briefcase. At the time, I smoked cigarettes. And this coach is coming down from the University of Utah to recruit him. So I'm getting ready to go to work this day, and I had this thump, 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 thump. Bobby, Bobby, it's better there, Bobby. I said, what? He's coming down the steps. He said, don't forget, the coach is going to be here today. I said, okay. I don't have any clients today. We're just going to go in. We have a little Christmas party. It's going to have a little sippy pool and exchange gifts. Merry Christmas. And I'll be back home 10:30, 11. No problem. He said, okay, don't forget, Bobby. Don't forget. Okay. So I come from a very huggy, kissy family. Don't matter if you're man, woman, child. We hug and kiss everybody. So he kissed me on both cheeks. We hug each other, and I go. I go to work. Now, if you would have told me that what I was about to do was going to happen to me, I would have told you, you're a liar. Impossible. This little boy is my vision for what I didn't do. I'm living vicariously through his success. I go to work with the intent I'm coming back home. I'm going to meet this coach. I'm going to sign these papers, and off we go. And then I continue doing what I was doing. So I get to work. We have a little sippy poo, drinky poo, bumpy poo, whatever you like. We have that there. That's the way we have Christmas parties. Once a year, we go all the way in, and whatever anybody in the office wants, it's on that table. And in those days, we had a little etiquette. You didn't have to worry about going to the bathroom and coming back and the stuff's not there. Everything's going to be there that was there when you left. Not like that today, but it don't matter because I don't know. So we have fun like that. So my secretary calls me. She said, Bobby, your son's on the phone. I said, tell him to meet him. I call him back. Now, this is the little man child I say I would live for and die for. Now I'm lying to him, which I taught him to never do. He calls back again. Tell him I'll be there in a minute. I'm a little busy right now because I had those products, you know where. I let him go. He calls back again. She says, I'm not hanging up on him. I'm putting this call through. Take the call. Talk to your son. So he takes the call. I said, Bobby, ¿qué pasa? And he tells me, he said, Dad, it's getting close. You coming? I said, I'm on my way. Well, I'm not going to keep you in suspense. I got home about 8:30 that night. So I hadn't met you yet. I didn't know that I was in the grips of a progressive disease. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know about that imaginary seatbelt Ralph told me about. I didn't know anything about that. If you would have told me I wasn't going to be there on the biggest day of this man child's life, I would have said you were crazy. This is a little boy that I would live for and I would die for. And I couldn't even show up. So I show up at 8:30. I open the door. I hear some noise. I mean, fun noise. Talking, laughing, music. I open the door. Silencia. Total silence. You could hear a pin drop. I look at my girlfriend, and she just sticks down on the floor. She won't even look at me. I look at my son, and if eyes could kill, somebody else would be sitting here talking to you. It wouldn't be me. And my son wants me to be his hero. He looked at me like that, that even gave me chills. But I hadn't met you yet. I didn't know that alcohol and those other party favors don't let you respond appropriately, which would have been shame, guilt, remorse, I'm sorry. It didn't let me respond like that. It let me respond with anger and rage. And I looked at my son's eyes. I said, boy, don't you ever look at me like that again. I'm your father. All of a sudden I wanted to be father of the week, but I couldn't even show up on the biggest day of this little man child's life. I couldn't even show up. And he goes in his room, and I proceed to do what I do. I go to the freezer. They told me I always keep a half a pint of pop off in the freezer, take the chill off the top, a bite of that, and I get back into my party favors, and I just go on. The time came for me to drive him to the airport. He's going away to the University of Utah. I'm very happy for him. I drop him off at the airport. We kiss each other on both cheeks. I said, Guido there, Bobby. And he goes and runs back, gives me another hug, because it was only him and I. And he gets on the plane and driving home. I'm a happy camper. This is the first time in 18 years that I will have no responsibility, no accountability, not concerned about any credibility, and I can do whatever I want. I'm free. And I go home and I get my old football bullhorn down from the closet and I say, ladies and gentlemen, it is now party time. And I went at it. And 3.5 years later, I was helpless, homeless, godless, thoughtless, penniless. I was not a vision for you. I didn't look like this. I didn't walk like this. I didn't talk like this. I didn't feel like this. And I damn sure didn't smell like this. People would cross the street when they got about 100 feet near me. And I was gone. And I had my first spiritual experience. That day, I had an out-of-body experience. I had been eating out of dumpsters for about a year. And I had vowed I'll never eat out of a dumpster again in my life. And I was up for about 5 days, and I was like starving Marvin. I just had to have something to eat. And obviously, I didn't have any money. And I was tired of dining and dashing. So I'm waiting for this manager to throw out this bag of food from upstairs at this fast food restaurant, and I was going to run out and catch it. And I ran out to catch it, and it broke in my arms. And that hot plastic and that dirty coffee and those scrambled eggs were all up and down my arms, and I started crying. And I started crying from the inside, and I started crying like a river. And I'm talking about really crying. And I had my first out-of-body experience. I was up here looking down at this animal at the dumpster crying, and about 30 seconds later, I realized that animal was me. Now, I've had kind of a tumultuous journey in my life. I've been probably many places I shouldn't have been, doing things I shouldn't have done. And I've had guns put everywhere you can put a gun, cocked and pulled, and have never been shot. I have never, ever experienced the depth of fear that I experienced when I saw that animal at that dumpster and realized it was me. And I just went running down the street, screaming, hollering, in between cars, stopping traffic, crazy, until I could find something that would take me to oblivion so that I would never, ever, ever have to see that vision again. Because it scared me to death. And through a series of unforeseen circumstances, somehow later, about a week or two later, I found myself in a homeless shelter looking for somewhere to sit down and not get arrested. The only problem for me was I was a no God baby. And in this homeless shelter, you had to go to this meeting in the morning where they were reading this funny blue book at 7:30 in the morning. Never heard of it in my life. You had to go to this writer's workshop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you had to participate. And then at 5:30, you had to appear at this meeting. They called it a participation meeting. Participation meeting? I don't want to participate with me. Why would I ever participate with you? But those were the rules and regulations. Because years earlier, at about 11 years old, 10 years old, I was raised in Catholicism and I was dyslexic, but I didn't know it at the time because they weren't tested in those days. And every week we go to altar boy practice. The masses were all in Latin, so I had to learn Latin. And as I tried to learn Latin, it was too hard for me. I couldn't get it. And every time I was studying on the Latin, I would start speaking Spanish. And these guys were getting pissed off at me. And I'm talking about two priests. So they came up with this methodology that they would help me. Two compassionate, loving, kind priests. And the methodology was such that one would hold me tight from the back and one would whack my knuckles with that big ruler until my knuckles were black, blue, purple, and bleeding. And I was one of those defiant Boricuas. I said to myself, you will never make me cry. All the altar boys were over there in the corner crying, and they couldn't take even to watch. And I said to myself, you will never make me cry. I will die before I cry for you. You will never make me cry. And they were trying to break me. And the last time they did that to me, I pushed off this guy behind me, and I pushed that priest in front of me, and I went running out that church screaming. And I got outside and I started crying. I looked up at that cross and I said, God, if this is what you're about, no quiere más, no quiere más. I don't want no more. That's it. And from that day until I met you, I never dawned the steps of a church again in my life. And we had to go to church every Sunday. And across the street from church was a basketball court. And my sisters we'd all get ready to go to church, and they'd go to the church and I'd go to the court, and they never told on me. And my sisters are tattletales. But in that case, they knew what happened to me. They never told on me. And I'd come home with my knuckles all bleeding. And my mother would say, are you fighting again? When are you going to stop fighting? I couldn't break her heart because she thought the priest walked on water. So there was no sense telling her what happened. I didn't want to break her heart. So I grew up like that. And when I first met you, you guys called me, used to tease me. Oh, there's that no God baby. They called me a no God baby. And it kind of stuck. I said, yeah, I don't want to be bothered with God. It wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I just didn't want to be bothered with God because the life I lived, I didn't think he'd want to be bothered with me. And I'm in this homeless shelter and I'm listening. Every day you can't eat breakfast until they have this meeting with this funny blue book. And I'd sit way in the back on death row. And one day I heard this man say, I was in a dead sleep and something woke me up. I didn't know what it was then, but I know what it is now. Something woke me up. And she was saying, rarely have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path. And I thought it was a cult. I go back to sleep. A couple of weeks later, I'm still in this homeless shelter. And I hear this lady say, we of Alcoholics Anonymous, of 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I don't know why, but those two things were burnt into my consciousness, but I still went back to sleep. And I got out of that homeless shelter and they sent me to this treatment center. And I started finding out and meeting people like you. And I didn't even know any of you guys would come over and shake my hand and hug me. I didn't even want to hug me. Believe me, it looked like I had dreads. I didn't have dreads. I hadn't combed my hair in 2 years. My hair was filthy, just like me. And this was somewhere I could take a shower. In that homeless shelter is where I got introduced to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, one day at a time. And I remember the guy who became my first sponsor, who's no longer with us. He was taking a 4-year cake. I was there about a week. And I thought this was like some sort of crazy cult. Grown men and women singing happy birthday and lighting a cake. What kind of crazy stuff is this? But I wanted to stay there. I was just tired of living on the street. And at the time, I was an emotional coward. I'd rather fight than talk to you. Everybody was getting ready to go and he was getting ready to lock up and I was the last one to leave because I didn't want to ask in public. I said, Bill, what's it like to have all those people talk about what a significant impact you made on their lives? What is that like? And I'll never forget the words he said. I can hear him now. He said, Rico, why don't you stick around and find out? And that got burnt into my consciousness. Burnt into my consciousness. Why don't you stick around and find out? And I went to the treatment center. I finished the treatment center. I started going to these meetings and H&I stuff just to kind of find out. Always sitting by myself in the back on death row because that's where I was most comfortable. And this old bearded man said one day, we was in the club, and then those days you can smoke in the meetings. And I would wash coffee cups and dump ashtrays and do whatever I did because I didn't have anywhere to go. One day this guy said, "Come here, Sonny." Now weighing about 99 pounds soaking wet with two pair of pants and two sweatshirts. I said, "Sonny, my name ain't Sonny. Yo soy Boricua. My name is Rico." And he said, "Sit down and shut up." I said, "Yes, sir." Because I knew then he knew I was dying and I knew I was dying. He said, "We're going to take a look at this book." He said, "I know you know God, baby. Don't worry about that." He said, "We're going to pass this." And he was talking about the forwards. He said, "We're going to pass this. You're dying. We'll get back to that." And he starts me off in the doctor's opinion. And he starts taking me to the doctor's opinion. "Thank you." And we get to the doctor's opinion and we go to the doctor's opinion. And he starts taking me through the book, word by word, sentence by sentence, line by line, paragraph by paragraph. And we moving on. Step one, I didn't have any problem with. Step two, I had a problem with. The God idea, wasn't open to it. Step three, I had a problem with. God idea, I had a problem with it. He said, "Let me tell you something, Sonny." And he called me that Sonny again. And I grit my teeth. He says, "There's something up there that makes that sun rise and that sun set. And all you need to know to be successful in this program is that's something in you." And he put his hand on my chest. "That's something in you." And normally I'd break his fingers, but he got my attention. I said, "Okay." He said, "All you need to do is believe I believe. Don't worry about it. You take these 12 steps to the best of your ability, something will happen for you." He said, "But I'm not going to tell you what's happening because I don't know." And he said, "If anybody you meet along the way tells you what's going to happen to you as a result of taking these steps," he said, "I want you to do me a favor." I said, "What's that?" He said, "I want you to run." He said, "You need somebody that's going to be able to guide you through these steps and allow you to find your own truth and have your own experience with these steps. This ain't the Stepford Wives." And that kind of stuck with me. I said, "Okay." And I found somebody to help me do that. He took me to the doctor's opinion, first eight pages of Bill's story, there is a solution, and more about alcoholism. And I start seeing my life come before my face and more about alcoholism. He took me through the first 2.5 pages of We Agnostics. And I said, "Oh boy." I start getting just a little smidget of hope, just a little bit, that maybe I don't have to die like this. I did the inventory. I shared the fifth step, but I'm still a no God baby. That's what's slowing the road down. I'm still a no God baby. I'm just not in a position to trust the God idea. And I get in 6 and 7, and I have my second spiritual experience. I get in 6 and 7, and I wasn't entirely ready for anything. I was a desperado, and I was cursing and crying. I called God every name in the book. And I finally said, "But if you are up there, can you help me?" And I rolled over in 7, and just everything just went silent. I was in the midst of 7 after I said a 7-step prayer, and everything just went shh. Something happened. I can't tell you what happened, but it's affected me from that day to this. Something inside happened. And I had never felt so trusted, so loved, so cared for, so safe. And I just stayed in that. And after I came out of that with all those tears and tissues and shirt sleeves, wiping all that stuff from my face, I found myself making that list. I made those amends. And at the backside of 9, going into 10, this guy's reading a book to me, and I'm sitting across from him. And he says, "We've now entered the world of the spirit." I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, espérate, papi, espérate. When did that happen?" He's talking to a dumpster diving, no God baby. When did that happen? "We've now entered the world of the spirit." I didn't sign up for that. And again, sit down, shut up. And I listened to him. And the next sentence he says is, "We're now going to focus on understanding and effectiveness." And I start having to cry and spell again because I hadn't been effective or understanding in 20 years. And I didn't think that was ever possible for me again. And we get through that, and he rolls me over to 11, and I fall in love. Dumpster diving, Puerto Rican sleaze bag, no God baby, falls in love. And I get into prayer and meditation, and it's working for me. It's working for me. Thank you, Mark. It's working for me. And I get in that prayer and meditation, and to this day, When I got to about 7 years, I went over to Maui. I always wanted to go to um, Hawaii. Never been there in my life. Mostly when I was in New York. I was, I would go to Hawaii, and I had the money, I had the time, I had the thing. I just, when you're in Spanish Harlem, you don't leave Mile Square area. You just don't leave there. You just that's just who you are. And I go over there and I go over and I do a silent retreat by myself. It took me about a half a day to get all the noise out of my head. And I sat in that silence and I asked God, please show me what happened to that dumpster dive in Boricua to who he is now. And he shows me this montage. And from that day to this, I knew who I was and what I had to do. And one day at a time, I'd be able to do that. So when we got into 12, all the guys I got sober with haven't had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps we carried this message. They all wanted to run around speaking. This is really not my go-to. I do this sometimes, but my go-to is either in prayer meditation or sitting across the table from that person with that book in between, and we pray and invite in that divine third to see what he would have us be or what he would have us do in the section that we're covering. That's what I enjoy. So I get to this prayer meditation, and everybody's running around speaking in all these meetings, doing all this stuff. They didn't know half of them was carrying the mess instead of the message, but they didn't know. They were trying. And I wanted to know, as a result of these steps, what happened to me. And I started searching for that, and I found out. So today, I try to be, to the best of my ability, love's presence. Not to be so great, not for reciprocity. I could care less what you think about me, but what I care about is what I think about you. I didn't come here like that. I came here, you guys taught me how to live and how to love. I thought I knew how to love. I thought I was the baddest Latin lover in New York City. But I didn't, it was always on conditional or transactional basis. I didn't know that one could love and have that deep agape love just because. Because when you move away Rico Cruz and you move away the body, mind, personality, and you remove away all the things and the stuff, I'm left with I am that I am. And that's who I desire to be. Just the I am, please. Forget about Rico Cruz. Forget about the clothes, the girls, the cars, the bank account, the upward mobility. Forget, move all that out the way. That's what's in my way. And when all that's gone, it's just me here, one with the Father and one with me. And we connected. And I didn't come here like that. So when you come from a dumpster diving Boricua to where I am now, something had to happen. And what happened was you men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous. What happened was you introduced me to a power that I did not want to be bothered with in any way, shape, or form. What happened was you allowed me to find my truth. What happened was you allowed me to have my own experience, and you just kept me within the parameters of where I needed to be. And you're talking about an attitude of gratitude and a large slice of humble pie. That's what I have for breakfast every day as a result of meeting men and women like you in rooms like this, one day at a time. So if no one told you they love you today, I love you. And I don't want a thing from you except you to get to that place you love you. But in order to do that, from my experience, I can share with you, you need to get who you think you are out the way and find out who the infinite one wants you to be, one day at a time. So I think your time is up. I love you. Thanks for letting me be in Barcelona. And to my friend Phyllis, cumpleaños feliz, cumpleaños feliz, cumpleaños mi hermana, cumpleaños feliz. Namaste.